Welcome to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with Claire Smith this morning. Claire, every once in a while, we like to hook up with interesting people. Claire is one of those. A health and wellness instructor at Malone University. You've also got quite a following on social media and a blog, and we're going to just learn so much from you today. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me this morning.
So let's talk about health.
Yeah.
You say that it starts from the inside out.
Yeah, that's
What's
right.
your message?
Man, my message is that God has something big for our lives, something abundant for our lives, and that includes the physical aspect of our life. And so many of us have a lot of questions and confusion in regards to how we kind of steward or manage our health, especially from a biblical and eternal perspective. And so the heart of my message really is to help women in particular really kind of go deeper in their walk with the Lord as they kind of work through the challenges that they may have physically. So whether that's something with their eating, something with resistance to exercise, maybe some really bad habits or addictions or whatever, we know that the heart, the root of all those things, that Jesus is the one that can heal and that he can provide us that true freedom. And so really the heart of my message is inside out wellness, is really changing people, training their mind, body, and soul for the race of life.
Mm-hmm. I have friends who are models, and they say, don't look at magazines and say, oh, I wish I could look like that. I'm that model. I don't look like that.
That's right.
Photoshop has been our worst enemy, has it not?
Oh, my goodness. It's really a hard thing. And I really feel now with social media, the access, the inundation that we have with Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat, all of those different things, it's made it even that much harder than even when I was in high school or I was younger or growing up. So for sure, it's false, but it's something that we look at and we think is true. And so we have to work through that.
Because, do I believe my lying eyes?
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing it right there.
That's right.
But it's not.
It's
not what
so deceptive.
Yes, yes. What is it about women and their bodies? You talk to any woman, there's going to be something. When they look in the mirror, there's going to be something that they wish they could change. That's the first response.
Yeah.
Looking in a mirror is to change whatever's amiss.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about women, and how do we get ourselves seeing ourselves through other eyes?
I think a lot of it is society. I mean, it's just what has been popular. It's what's been out there. So the way that we look has just been something that's so important, whether it's on TV or in magazines or whatever it is. And so when we see that, that becomes our norm. That's our normal. And it starts at a very young age. And there's just something ingrained in us. And I believe that it's okay to have a healthy self-esteem and a healthy image of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens is Satan likes to take a good gift, something good that God has given us, and he just wants to destroy that, right? So he wants to take something and rip it to shreds. And he's winning in this area, especially with believers. We're no different. And so we have to really do things counterculturally. We have to kind of step away and that doesn't mean necessarily by ignoring the issue. See, there's kind of two ends to the spectrum. Mm-hmm. So I speak with people who love the Lord, and one end of the spectrum is that they're really into this. They're focused on their health, and they're trying to change those things in the mirror, right? So they're really working. They're on a journey to get thinner or whatever it is. There's a flip end to that. There are people who are like, listen, it's just your body. When you die, it goes under, right? Mm-hmm. When we go up to heaven, we got new stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And so who cares, right? Claire, I have 1,000 other things on my plate. Who cares? I believe that there's some balance right there in the middle. I believe that the Lord has given us that gift. And so we need to find that. We need to find that stewardship again, the management of a gift of our body, because that's the exact tool that God's given us to do the works that he's called us to do. Ephesians 2 tells us that he's got works prepared in advance. And so we want to step into that. And he hasn't used like a chair or this microphone to go out and share the gospel per se. He's given us bodies with a pumping heart, with muscles that work. And if you don't use them and you lose them, with chemicals that go off in your brain when things are going well, and endorphins. And that's not by my design. I say personal trainers, man, we get a hit. We get beat up because people don't like us, or Jillian Michaels, or whoever it is. It's God's design that he has put your body and manufactured it specifically. He's put it together specifically so that you can go out and do those things. And so when we look in the mirror, we have to know that it's okay for us to look at that and say, let's be realistic about this. Is there something about my habits, my body, whatever, that would actually be helpful, that I need to steward well? I don't think you necessarily have to say, oh, forget it. You know what I mean? It's not a bad, it's a bad thing that I look at myself and want to be a little smaller. I don't think so either. I think that's fine. And so again, it's that balance. It's us finding, and I believe that comes from leaning into the Spirit of God, and to leaning into him, looking into the truth, and just walking daily with him in that.
We can overdo it, can't we?
Oh, yeah.
I also have had friends that I don't know how they saw themselves, but they couldn't seem to be able to get thin enough. And this was back before we knew about anorexia nervosa. It was before anybody knew what was going on. But a friend who just became skeletal and still thought she was too fat. Yeah. How do we address what our mind's eye is looking at to reach that healthy balance you're talking about?
Sometimes it depends person to person, I'll be honest with you. Some women are able to work through that with a healthy trainer, with just getting, again, reconnected with the Lord and having a good girlfriend to kind of work through that. And sometimes I see that work itself out. I think they have these moments, and I think it's a grace that God has given them, this aha moment. But there are times, and I have women and girls in my lives who are struggling, who have a stronghold of this eating disorder. And it's something that they have to really look at and go to battle for. So that means counseling. That means a psychologist. That means really looking at it as some sort of an addiction, almost like, if you had alcoholism or some other addiction. And so sometimes the answer is a little easier. And sometimes it's harder. But I think we have to be realistic. I think we have to look back at our situation and say, all right, is this thing controlling me? Does it have the best of me? And am I listening to the people around me who love me, who are speaking love in my life? Am I really listening to what they have to say about it?
Not to oversimplify your job, but if we eat right, healthy stuff, if we stay away from too much sugar and fat and salt, if we exercise, drink water, and get a good night's sleep, are we pretty much doing it?
You're doing a fantastic job. If you do that, and you do that consistently, that's the hard part, you're going to have a very healthy, abundant life. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are the size or shape that you want to be. So that's a very different type of conversation I have with women. So just because your healthiest life, your healthiest body, may not be what you look like when you were 23. It may not be that number on the scale that you think you're chasing after. Your healthiest life is the life that you can serve the Lord the most with the most freedom. Now, what does that mean? We now have to start talking about other things. We have to now factor in our family. We have to factor in the time that we have with my kids. I can't go spend 3 hours a day because I have a family. I have a husband. He may or may not be on board with me going out on, 13-mile training runs on weekends. I don't know. Finances. Now, do you have the money every month to go to a local gym or not? You may not, and there are seasons for that. And so the Lord is sovereign over that. That's the thing I want people to get, is God is sovereign over every single season of your life, right? And so it is important for you to ask him every single season, God, how do I steward this gift? And that might mean I have to get over myself. That might mean that number on the scale, or the way that I want to fit into those jeans, may not actually be accomplished, but that doesn't mean that you're not healthy. You can still have all those other factors in balance. And so now it becomes more of a selfish type of a thing. Now we're dealing with our heart. And so then we have to backtrack and really say, God, what is it deep in my heart that makes me want to kind of chase this for whatever reason?
I've always thought that if I have to exercise every single day for 2 hours to look a certain way, maybe that's not my way
That's
I'm
right.
supposed to be looking.
Absolutely, 110%.
Right.
Agree.
That's too much time
Yeah.
in the gym.
That's right.
So, but what would be a realistic time? 30 minutes a day?
Absolutely. I tell women, actually, when you think of a triangle, I kind of have it in 3 layers. The bottom piece, the bottom third, is actual basic movement. It's not quote unquote exercise where you're just killing it at the gym and pushing it. I just want you to move more. I want you to park further away. I want you to go up the stairs. I want you to get up and get down. Don't sit on your couch, at 7 p.m. and stay there until 11 p.m. scrolling Facebook, going through Netflix and stuff like that. That is a detriment to our society. And that's a very simple fix, right? So go out for a walk after dinner. However you can move just a little more. And now we have tools like step counters and watches that really help us it's a tool. You don't have to have it, but it's something that might be like, oh, I didn't realize how little I was moving or whatever. So we start with basic movement in a day. It's the first thing I work with. And then the next layer is that nutritional component. What we put in our bodies are so much more important than any type of hard exercise that we do. And so that's a whole other discussion in itself. But then that top small piece of the triangle, I think, is the exercise where people they flip the triangle.
Yes.
The first thing we start to do is just try to punish ourselves in some ways, right?
For a
gym.
small part of the day.
For a small part of the day. Because you know what? It's easy. Check, 30 minutes
I've done
done.
that.
Eating mindfully is hard. It's very difficult because we have so many factors. We have bad habits, we have social settings, etc. And so yes, 30 minutes a day is fantastic. There are some people like myself who are oddballs. We love working out. And so for us, 30 to 60 minutes is fantastic. It's fun for us. It's kind of our creative time. So it's really flexible depending on seasons of life too.
You talk about stewardship of the body that we've been given. What do you mean by that, and how do we become good stewards of the bodies we've been given?
Yeah, it's a great question. That the stewardship is basically management, right? Management of a gift. We think of stewardship of finances traditionally, I think, for the most part. And so God's given us a set of resources in our lives, or maybe our family or our job. We have to manage this gift. He doesn't have to do that and give it to us, but we need to take care of it. Same thing with our body. So again, it's less about like just assuming that we're supposed to have this body and it's supposed to be given to us and it's supposed to be 100% healthy easily, or vice versa. So it's, again, looking at multiple factors and who you are and what your dynamic is and what your season is, again, what your financial situation is, and seeing really where God has you, because again, he knows exactly where you are in your life and he cares about your body. And I tell that, I feel like we don't think that he cares about something so quote unquote superficial or shallow. But the truth is he does care, because we all know, and we can all sit here and talk authentically and honest. When you're not jiving healthy, like, I'm not saying you got to be like a model, but when you aren't sleeping right, eating right, working out right, when you're feeling a little blah, it impacts your life. I don't care who you are. And for women in particular, it really impacts a lot of their thinking. There's a lot of jealousy that comes on. Think about practically. There's comparison. You also don't have the energy to get up and do what you need to do. And it's just this terrible cycle. And it's not freedom. It's not freedom for your life. You are chained. And so the Lord wants freedom for all areas of your life. And so stewardship matters of the body.
When you think about it, Grandma used to get more aerobic exercise by 9 a.m. than most of us do all day
That's
long. Right. Think about her beating the rug and, whatever they used to do, churning the butter,
right?
All of that.
Right.
And I think our culture has made us so sedentary that to be able to take those extra steps that you're talking about and try to be more mindful about just moving more rather than just trying to pack it all into that 30-minute workout, that's the least of the important parts of it. But how do you have practical steps on how to build that in, what that looks like?
Yeah, just to be a little more active in your day. Again, it's little things like parking a little further away at the office, maybe setting a timer every 45 minutes. All you do is get up and go get a drink of water or take a lap around the office, or you add an additional walk at night. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily be easy, I'm not saying that you're going to be like, oh, Claire, I just found an extra, 60 minutes in my day all of a sudden. No, I'm saying that you might actually have to do some adjustment there. You may have to wake up 30 minutes earlier. Again, you may have to say after dinner time, I'm going to, DVR this show, and my wife and I, or my husband and I, are going to go out for a 30-minute walk, or my kids, or something like that. And so we know that real change, you have to be intentional about those things in life. So again, it's kind of getting up. And I don't want to diminish the fact of exercise. I don't want to diminish the fact that if you can get into a class or hit the gym or go for a run or do something like that. But also know this, exercise is very unique person to person. I have so many women that come to me that are like, Claire, I hate running. And I'm like, well, quit running.
Stop running. There's other things
you don't have to
run.
Do. I'm giving you permission right now not to run.
Yes.
So find kind of that exercise when you put that in your week that gives something back to you.
That you enjoy.
It should push you. I want it to, but you should enjoy it.
It used to be called playtime, and it used to be fun and something that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
You don't tell kids it's time to exercise now. You just open the door and out they go, and they run and they play as long, hopefully that's the way it is, that they just have a great time.
Yeah.
So it should be recess.
That's right. It truly is. And do it with a friend. Do it with your spouse. Do it with your kids. I mean, my kids are getting a little older, so starting to think about bringing them on runs with me. And you really can use it, too, as ministry opportunity if you really want to go bigger with that. There's nothing like that time when you're kind of forced to go on a run with someone that you can really have great conversation. And so, gosh, there's just a lot in that area.
We're visiting with Claire Smith. She is a wellness instructor, and you got to follow her on social media. We'll tell you how to do that when we get back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.